You're listening to Talk LFC Podcast, an independent podcast for Reds by Reds. Be sure to hit that follow button.
Hello and welcome to Talk LFC Podcast. Today is November 25th, 2017, and Liverpool drew 1-1 with Chelsea at Anfield today. A very disappointing result, I have to say, all in all. Just before we go any further, I suppose I just want to draw your attention to our social media. If you could give us a follow on it. We're on Facebook, Talk LFC Podcast, Twitter, at Talk LFC Podcast. And if you want to email us, get in touch with the show, it's talklfcpodcast@gmail.com. We also have an online store which helps fund all our expenses for the podcast. And there's a sale at the moment. So if you want to check us out, it's redbubble.com/people/Talk LFC Podcast. The links are in the description to the show notes below. And at the moment, there's a 20% off sale on all apparel. So if you want to use the gift code GIFTON20, so that's GIFTON and the number 20. We get a small portion of revenue from that helps fund our podcast. Now, you might hear a little bit of noise in the background. We actually don't have crickets or anything like that. We actually have I have a co-host with me this evening, a man who hasn't made an appearance on Talk LFC Podcast in quite a long time. I have one Mr. Sean O'Cleary.
Ooh.
It's been a while.
It has been a while. The prodigal son has returned, and your ratings are about to go up, I guess.
we had to bring him back because we were losing ratings, so that's the, that's the main reason. But not exactly the best day to make a return to Talk LFC Podcast.
Well, you know, I mean, there's always a good reason to come back to Talk LFC because, you know, at the end of the day, people were saying that the chemistry that John Rainey and myself had was just, you know, amazing. And but with regards to the game, we could have maybe done the interview after the Southampton game, which I was at.
We could have had a reporter on the ground, actually. Yes,
we could have had a reporter on the ground. Not that I'd get any interviews. I was looking to get out. But I did meet one Mr. Martin Mason afterwards, but I had a couple of drinks at that stage, and I was up, from 7 p.m. on the Friday night, so I was absolutely banjaxed.
Yeah.
But not a great result. It kind of feels like a defeat, John.
It does, and it's funny because on the back of the Sevilla result the other night, and I didn't do a podcast on that because basically I was hoping that we'd have a good result today, and I could kind of touch on the result the other night and have it look like a blip. But unfortunately, we had the same capitulation today. Albeit the one the other night was a bigger mess up. But
yeah, I don't think you would have wanted to interview me on that night. I was quite pissed off. I mean, Moreno yet again. He seems to kind of perform very well for his former club while he's playing for his current club.
Yeah,
and, you know, I mean, the less I think said about that, the better. Sevilla are a good side, but they were a much better side in the second half, and we just didn't turn up. We didn't turn up.
Exactly. And, you know, it's amazing, but there were kind of remnants of Wednesday night's performance. Tuesday night's performance. It was Tuesday night, wasn't it? It was.
It was Tuesday night,
yeah. In today, with some of the notable absences being some of the players on the pitch. Excuse me. Look, I suppose we start off today with the team selection, and I'll go through the Liverpool team. So we had in goal Simon Mignolet, defenders Joan Matip, Alberto Moreno, Ragnar Klavan, and Joseph Gomez, as he's listed on the Liverpool website. Midfield we had Jordan Henderson, Phil Coutinho, James Milner, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Mo Salah, and of course we had Daniel Sturridge up front. Now, was there anything in there that kind of surprised you?
Well, there's a couple of things. I mean, Chamberlain for me, I don't get it. I don't get it. I
No.
don't want to kind of wish the kid any harm or anything like that. When you see a player coming, and joining Liverpool Football Club, and he's turned down other clubs, you want him to do well. But he's just, I don't think he's got it. So I don't really see what he can contribute to the club. I guess, having Sturridge up, I was a little bit surprised about that. I mean, there's been kind of speculation that, he wants to leave in January because he believes that he's a better player than what he is. Someone should maybe tell him that he's had more sick notes than me. But, I was a bit surprised to have, for him and, to be on. A little bit puzzled as to the fact that Mane was not playing. Firmino wasn't playing. Who else am I missing? Lallana was fit, so I was kind of surprised that they didn't maybe start him off.
Lovren, I didn't hear about Lovren being injured, but you told me before the match that it was announced last night, so yeah. I missed that bit. I wouldn't have been.
Robertson kind of on the bench again. A fantastic player, a Scotland international. He's not being used by Klopp whatsoever. And Moreno has kind of revamped his career through pre-season friendlies. And all of a sudden, we're meant to believe that he's like, a player reborn.
Yeah.
He just doesn't cut it for me. I keep saying this to you, John. Whoever his career guidance counsellor is or was, got it horribly wrong. He has absolutely no defensive attributes at all. He had a few good spells there today, not many. And I guess maybe I'm being a little bit kind to him. But the guy, all in all, should not be playing for Liverpool Football Club.
Yeah, no, he's not a defender. and I've said that before on numerous occasions. He's a winger who was converted to a left back. He doesn't have a defensive brain. So therefore he can't see the dangers, and when he does, it's too late. And if you look at his positioning, excuse me, if you look at his positioning in relation to Joe Gomez on the right-hand side, Joe Gomez plays a bit deeper than Moreno does, which means Moreno gets caught out further up the left wing. Now, he didn't do bad today. Moreno, he wasn't the worst player on the pitch today by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
But that side of our defence was very weak, and Chelsea targeted it. Ragnar Klavan brought in today to replace Dejan Lovren. I thought Klavan started off okay. He was solid enough, but as the game progressed, he just, he did, like Drinkwater in particular, he kind of exploited the positions that was left there a lot, particularly in the first half. He didn't look comfortable today on the ball. As I said, Moreno was okay. I thought he was actually one of our better players today, surprisingly enough. He didn't do too bad. Again, I can't understand the confidence that Klopp has in him. I really don't. I think we have better options at left back. I really do. As you mentioned, Robertson, when he did play, he showed signs that he was good in defence. He has a good defensive brain, and yet he can get you remember the crosses he was putting into the box in the games
Absolutely.
that he played.
I think that was Crystal Palace game.
I can't remember exactly, but it was some of the earlier games that he played for us, and he definitely had I think he had more to offer on the left-hand side even than James Milner did. Moreno, I don't know what I just get the distinct impression he's been played to pacify Coutinho. He's like his comfort blanket or something to keep him happy at the club.
I don't know. It's just a bit. Going back to Robertson, I just don't understand what the point of bringing that player in if you're not going to start him. There was a big hullabaloo over us paying the amount of money we paid for him. He's good. The times that he has played, he's been very good, and I would have more confidence because he's got defensive attributes. That's one thing we're lacking in left back. And he's a good crosser of the ball. So everything that Moreno has, he's got one more than him, which is the defensive end of it.
Yeah.
And that's what's kind of letting us down this season, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, going across the defence, excuse me, to Matip, I thought Matip and Klavan today, they looked like they had no relationship whatsoever. They looked disjointed at times. They didn't seem to have much of an understanding going on between the two of them, you know.
There was one where I think they were clearing the corner and like they were literally just, you know, throwing their legs wild about the place. I had no clue what the fuck was going on, but they couldn't clear the ball.
That was the goal out scramble, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were lucky. That was in the first half. We were very lucky to get away with that one.
But they're, you know, I mean, Matip, to me, at one stage of his career, I thought, well, he's a good defender. I mean, not so much now. I think he's certainly better than what we have. I don't think Lovren. Again, people are non-stop at Lovren, and I don't want to be the one to kind of be a Liverpool fan to give him abuse or anything like that. With what he's had to cope with, you know, outside of football, that's horrible.
Yeah.
And nobody wants that for anybody. But I think he's been given chance after chance after chance, and I just don't think he has it. I think we have a huge issue. Well, I mean, I'm stating the obvious here, John. We have a huge issue in defence.
We do.
Huge issue.
We do. And the one shining light in defence today, I thought, was Joe Gomez. I thought he did really well.
Yeah. Yeah. I like Gomez, but I Alexander-Arnold, I think is a great player as well.
Yeah. I would like to see Gomez in place of Klavan alongside Matip, because I think, being realistic, if we're not going to get Virgil van Dijk, I think Gomez and Matip have to be our first choice centre back pairing. You know, I know Trent Alexander-Arnold is only a kid, but you know he's shown intelligence beyond his years in terms of football, and you know he has huge potential. He's old enough, you know, if you're good enough, you're old enough. That's the way I look at it, and I think he should get more game time. I know Klopp is kind of protecting him and, you know, giving him limited runs in the side, but like, he's getting games in Champions League games. That's the biggest stage you can give. If he can manage that, surely to God he can manage a home game against Chelsea. You know, and one thing that bothered me today, and I'm going to point out two things that I noticed, or that I wasn't as happy with today, was when I seen the team sheet, was Oxlade-Chamberlain and Daniel Sturridge being included in the lineup. You know, I started scratching my head and I was saying to myself, why are we putting out a weak team against one of the strongest teams in the league? We need points. You know, we Stoke midweek. Surely we can rest players in that game. We need our best team against the best teams. You know,
I think that's what Frank Lampard and Rio Ferdinand were saying on BT Sport. They were kind of scratching their heads. Stevie G, in fact, I think was kind of scratching his head a little bit about that too. But you know, obviously he's not going to say too much because obviously he's on the payroll.
Yeah.
But I mean, to me, I'm not 100% sure about Sturridge. You know, when he plays and when he's on form, he's one of the best strikers out there. But you know, he's too temperamental. I think psychologically he's not all there with it.
He's lost his cutting edge, and I think he's lost a little bit of pace as well. But I suppose, look, we'll move up the lineup first. We've kind of dealt with the defence. We haven't mentioned anything about Moreno. Mignolet. What did you think of Mignolet?
Look, I think we've covered this in a couple of occasions about Mignolet and about Karius. It's kind of like Lorne and Hardy. I mean, he comes out flapping like a bloody turkey trying to, you know, escape Thanksgiving. I don't know what the hell he was doing off his line, so far off his line for that freak goal.
Yeah.
there's always going to be huge issues with our goalkeeper and our back four, and that to me that's part of the problem. I don't think he's one of those kind of mouthy goalkeepers like your Bruce Groblers or your Pepe Reinas, where they're vocal and they command their back four. I think he's a very, very quiet lad. I don't like when I was at the Southampton game, I didn't hear much of him screaming at the players. When you're watching the match on TV, you don't kind of see him kind of commanding too much.
Do you remember? I don't know if you might remember. Did you remember when you had the likes of Jamie Carragher, Sammy Hyypiä, Pepe Reina in your back line? Yeah. You could hear them above the crowd shouting. Yeah. Pepe Reina was very vocal. Jamie Carragher was very vocal. There isn't a vocal voice in our back five, and I'm including the goalkeeper in that. You don't hear them. And to be honest today, to be honest with you, Mignolet saved us in the first half because he did pull off a couple of very good saves.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've seen the replays of the goal, the Willian goal. I'm not sure if I completely blame him for it because, while, yes, if he'd have taken one step back and then dived, he probably would have got a hand to the ball to tip it over. But at the same time, I don't think any goalkeeper would have been expecting a shot from there. Same with it's similar to Salah's goal last week. He was that far out that it wasn't expected to be a shot against Southampton, and I find it hard to criticise him today. He is getting a lot of criticism over it, but I still find it hard. I thought he did well today. He kept us in the game the first half, pulled off a couple of very good saves. He got a bit of criticism from the Kop, which I was surprised at, because there was one point he was trying to play the ball to the defenders and build up from the back, and the Kop got on his back, and actually Klopp kind of gave out to them and said, get off his case or whatever. He started gesticulating to them to cool it, but what was happening is then he was forced to play the ball long, and it just put us back under pressure again because our midfield disappears.
Yeah, I mean, I know Klopp is very kind of defensive of his players and stuff like that. I think that's going to work against him because I think there are a lot of question marks over the players and over who's putting on a Liverpool jersey, and are they good enough. I think when the fans start, and especially the Kop, when the Kop start, calling for a player or whatever, or giving out about a player, I'd usually go with what the Kop says.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they know their football, and at the end of the day, it's football without the fans is nothing.
Exactly.
I think you need to start listening to the fans a little bit more. I think the fans see it day in and day out, the issues at the club, and we're being told no, these aren't issues. Name me, two central defenders that are better than the ones we have. I mean, are you kidding me? So in terms of Mignolet, it's all well and good to be good for one half, but as you well know, there's two halves to the game.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you touched on something there, and you said about the crowd. How did you find the vocalization of the crowd today? Did you notice anything?
Not really. I mean, I guess you see, it's very difficult when you're watching on TV. I thought the fans were great from what I could hear.
I found that there was times that it was just very flat. You could hear everything. And actually, David Cooney was messaging me at the time, and he said, you can hear seagulls at times. And well, if you're hearing... I have to say, that after he said it to me, I kind of didn't pass it. I thought, it's a bit slow start, but it was early on in the game. And then David messaged me, and we were talking over back a message, and then he said, the atmosphere is... it's terrible. And it was, because it went so flat. And you could notice it, that there was at one point, I can't remember who it was early on in the game, and it just proved the point of how quiet it was. I can't remember which Chelsea player it was, but it went out for a throw-in from a Chelsea player, and it was a mistake by a Chelsea player. Can't remember who it was. But the roar, the roar showed the contrast between how quiet it was and then how noisy it got. And it proved a point to me that, yes, the atmosphere wasn't great today again. But then again, how do you expect the atmosphere to be good when you have performances, that are below standard? When you have your captain, and that's I'm going to touch on next, Jordan Henderson.
Yeah.
I didn't think he did a lot today. He did a lot of fucking running, but then again, he always does that. He didn't do a lot in the game. I don't think he contributed much. His passing today, I thought, was extremely negative. Sidewards, backwards passing again. Gave the ball away a lot. I think there's a question that he may have given the ball away for Williams' goal.
I think he did, yeah. But one thing I'll say, John, just going back to your comment about the fans, I do remember coming up to the, injury time, we were, the fans were getting on the players' case to get up and play forward.
Yeah.
And we were doing this sideways passing bullshit, which to me, is the most negative. It's all well and good to have, possession, the percentage of the possession. But if we're playing sideways all the bloody time, it's very easy for the opposition to, park the bus, as we keep calling it.
Yeah.
We're very, very slow on the counter. There are times when we're not. When you have the likes of Mane and Salah running like a fucking, the road runner, and then Firmino as well. That's grand. But when they start getting into this habit of the sideways passing, it's not very attractive to watch, and to me it's very negative, because it just looks like they don't know what to do with the ball. There's no creativity. There's no, forward thinking. It's almost predictable. And from a fan's point of view, watching that, you're obviously going to get on their case. You're obviously going to say, come on, lads, we need to actually get the 3 points here. Otherwise, if we get the 3 points, we're in fourth spot.
And we've seen instances of it where the ball has been passed back and the fans, there's an audible moan from the crowd.
Yeah.
There were options there today, particularly towards the end. There was a situation where Gini Wijnaldum was running forward. And Henderson could see him, but yet he chose to pass the ball back. We were 1-1 at this point with a couple of minutes to go. And, again, possession statistics in terms of Liverpool tend to be skewed because, yes, we have loads of possession, but we had 66% possession against Spurs and we lost the game 4-1.
Yeah.
What possession stats are fuck all, and that proves it, and the thing about us, and if you notice our goals, a lot of our goals this season happen from nothing, it's like we turn possession over and we score. It's happened quite a lot this year. So, a good percentage of our goals don't come from our possession. A lot of our possessions passed over and back. And, as I said, particularly with Salah, a lot of our goals come from nothing. But anyways, I'm sorry, but I thought Henderson had another poor game today. I think his leadership qualities are just not there. I don't think he's not the only one. He's not the only one who's not vocal enough. We have a team of silent players. There's very few of the players that actually speak out, and give orders and control the game.
I think you're right on that. I mean, there's a lot of talk about Henderson and Dunk calls him 5 yard. I think he's a young enough kid. I mean, obviously he's got huge boots to fill with Stevie G.
Yeah.
But he's not going to fill them by being very, very silent and in the kind of play that he's playing, which is very negative passing. He's certainly not going to spur any of the players on. going back to what you were saying, John, about the possession, if you look at even last year on the games that we lost, the one against Burnley in particular, we had 70% of the possession. A lot of the games that we lost, we had the majority of the possession. We just couldn't put the ball in the net.
Yeah, it was the same against Leicester. We did the very same against Leicester last year. They sat back and let us control the game, and then they'd hit us on the counter, which is exactly what happens. Yeah. Milner today, I thought Milner did okay today. He didn't kind of stand out, but he didn't do too bad either. And
I don't know about Milner. I think, I just saw some of the play there and some of his passing, and I just thought he didn't, like, obviously, Milner and Henderson had a job to kind of keep Hazard quiet.
They didn't do that.
They didn't do that, And I think when Hazard picked up a bit of a knock, I think that kind of quietened them down a little bit. But that was just pure luck on our part, not wishing any bad on any player. But, even so, I still think that between Henderson and Milner, they didn't do what they were set out to do.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't control the midfield. And it was quite obvious. Like, Chelsea came, they had a game plan. They were going to sit deep and they were going to counter us. And I think within the first few minutes of the first half starting, they even started to get a little bit more adventurous. They could see that we were soft in the midfield, and that we had two easy targets, as I mentioned already, on the left side of our defence. So they manipulated that. Like, I seen a stat at half time for Jordan Henderson, and not to go back to him to kind of criticise this, but all his stats were at zero. His tackles, his interceptions, successful passes, they were all at zero. If you have a midfielder who's also your captain returning those stats, it's not good. It's not good at all. No. Anyways, we'll leave Henderson because I don't want to be super critical of players and what have you. The next person is Philip Coutinho. I thought today was bang average. He had no influence on the game whatsoever today.
Well, this is kind of part of the thing that I was very, very worried about when we decided to keep Coutinho and not sell him to Barcelona. What sort of, enthusiasm is he going to have for playing for the club? And I think, he's very affected by how other players play around him. He's that type of player. That's my opinion of it. He was bang average. There were some bits and bobs there in the game where I thought, okay, there's Coutinho doing his thing. But again, I just felt he was very, very quiet. Obviously, the player that was man-marked was obviously Salah. And that just really goes to show how he's kind of going down in the pecking order a little bit. I think everyone is kind of resigned in the fact that we are going to lose him in the summer.
It's just when you see what he's capable of doing. Now, maybe I'm just being extra critical today because of the way the result turned out, but or maybe it's the fact that Hazard kind of made him, kind of overshadowed him in the game. Hazard was better than him, but I think Coutinho was singled out as one of the danger men, and I think they controlled him well as well. I think that had a lot to do with it.
Well, yeah, I mean, tactically, Chelsea were on form.
Mm-hmm.
They certainly kept him quiet. They kept Salah, they kind of controlled him for quite a lot of the game. But I mean, Salah's just he's like a March hare. He's got some great pace in him. But I just think Coutinho, as the game came on, and I think that's why they took him off. I think he just lost momentum and hunger, and I just think he was just picking up on the vibes of the rest of the players.
I think, I agree with you there, because he hadn't, as usual, he was missing his two his two buddies in Mane and Firmino in front of him.
Absolutely.
While he has a good kind of a relationship with Salah as well, it seems at times that there seems to be a telepathic relationship between the two. But I think we were missing our front. We were missing two of our key men today, and I think that showed. And I think that had a lot to do with Coutinho kind of missing out, not having the game that he had. Now, as I said, the defenders or the midfielders behind him, I don't think gave him a lot of service either. So,
no.
You had a lot, and he was tracking back a lot, I thought, as well. There was a couple of situations where he was actually in the left back position, but he's been given that kind of free role that he's to come back and get the ball and kind of build from there. So, it's to be expected that you'd see him back. Oxlade-Chamberlain today, while I wasn't too keen to see his name on the team sheet, I thought he actually had a pretty good game, surprisingly enough. He got the assist for Salah's goal.
Yeah, I still have huge question marks over the kid. I mean, as I said earlier on, I don't want to be kind of giving out. I don't want to be critical of any player, but I think it's good to not have our Liverpool goggles on and think, well, this year is going to be our year. It's okay to be critical of the players if they don't play well, and I think in full, I'm not 100% sure about Chamberlain and where he fits in that squad.
Yeah.
I really don't get it. I don't get what he can contribute, apart from bringing his gorgeous girlfriend over to watch the game, and I'd have a little bit of mix of that, I'll tell you. But, you see that?
I see what you did there.
There you
Very
go.
good.
There you go. But I just don't see it. I don't see why he's at the club. I don't see what we can get from him. I thought he had an okay game, but nothing to kind of write home about.
Yeah. That's my point exactly. He had an okay game. As I said, he gets the assist for Salah's goal, albeit he stuck his foot out and the ball got through to him. But yet, it's an assist and it stands up there. He has gotten a couple of goals, but for a £40 million man, you'd expect him to be starting more. And I just don't think he contributes enough for what we paid for him. I think we could have done more with the money. Anyways, that's
a good point. But if you compare the positive effect that Salah has on the team and Chamberlain, and they're kind of similar in price tag, who do you think is the better buy?
Oh, without a doubt, Salah. I think Salah is the buy of the season. Even after 13 games, I don't care what anybody says. He's not a striker, and he has 15 goals in 20 games. That's phenomenal return, And I was going to leave Mo Salah to discuss till last because I wanted to touch on Daniel Sturridge. He was kind of playing the front man today. I thought he looked very leggy. He did have a couple of opportunities, but he didn't look sharp today. He didn't look like he had any ideas. He wasn't terrible, but he's not the Daniel Sturridge that I remember. He's definitely lost a yard of pace, and I think he's definitely lost his sharpness.
I think Daniel Sturridge kind of strives on having a partnership. If you look at when he was at his best, it was when he was partnered up with Luis Suarez.
Yeah,
I mean, Luis Suarez would have made me look good, and that's a lot. I mean, that just says it all. But I think Daniel Sturridge since Suarez left hasn't been the same player.
No.
I think obviously the injuries and psychologically the injuries have fucked him up. Mentally he's not all there. There's all talk about his future at the club. When I see him on the pitch, I don't say, well, okay, that's a good side. He can either have a very, very good game or a bang average game.
Yeah.
And I think, he's the type of player that has to have ball to feet. He doesn't... The ball has to be provided to him. Do you know what I mean? He's not going to kind of run around defenders and stuff like that. He's just not that player anymore. So I don't know. I don't, I mean, there's talks about Klopp and his system and the way they play football. Does it suit?
It doesn't suit when you see the role that Firmino plays. Firmino does an awful lot more tracking back. He wins the ball back. While he doesn't score the amount of goals that your typical striker scores, he creates an awful lot. He produces stuff from nothing. He tracks back, as I said, gets the ball back. He can create a yard of space for someone else. Sturridge, it's not in his game, and I don't blame him for it. He just doesn't fit the style,
No.
And to be honest with you, I don't blame him for wanting to go out on loan in January. I was surprised we didn't sell him this year, to be honest with you.
Well, I think the money that we were looking for at the time was ludicrous amount of money, and obviously teams aren't going to pay that amount of money for a player that's as injury prone as he is. I don't know, John. I just think I feel sorry for him in a way, and I just feel that I don't think he has much to offer Klopp in terms of the way Klopp plays his football. I don't think that suits Sturridge at all.
No, and I think he's stagnating. Actually, I think his skills are diminishing as time goes by because he's not playing regular football. You can see he's a yard short. As I said, he doesn't have the pace. He scored. I know he scored goals recently, but at the same time, he's a striker. That's what he's supposed to do. His natural instincts are supposed to be to score goals. But I just don't think he's, as you said, he doesn't suit our style. He doesn't fit into the type of football that Klopp wants to play. He's a striker. He's an opportunist. He doesn't work hard enough to fit into the style. And I think that was kind of evident today as well. I suppose
you look at the attributes that Salah has in comparison to Sturridge, and I mean, obviously Salah is way ahead of him in terms of his hunger for the ball, and he's willing to work a lot harder for the ball, and he's got great pace. So I think we shouldn't be surprised, John. I mean, if you're in a job and it's not offering you much opportunity in terms to kind of grow, you're going to be very kind of disheartened and whatever. So I just think that's kind of happening to him, and it's kind of sad to see that, because football, as a football brain, he's got a fantastic football brain. He does have the potential of being a very good player. Unfortunately, his fitness and psychologically now, it's not helping him.
I think he's lost his edge. And the thing about it is, right, look at, I know he wants to play football and what have you, and he is kind of stealing a wage at the moment. He's getting, I think he's at 110 grand a week. That's a lot of money to be paying a guy for doing nothing and for contributing nothing. I think he should be let go in January, both for his career and also to free up a bit of money so that we can bring somebody in. And like he was hooked. Like Salah scored his goal in the 65th minute, and he was, Sturridge was pretty much dragged off straight away and replaced by a midfielder. So you could kind of see where this was going. I think Klopp was happy to try and play out for a 1-0 win at that stage, which is a very dangerous thing to do when you're Liverpool, because there's no guarantee at 1-0. There's no guarantee at 3-0 that we're even going to win a game. So I think 1-0 is a very dangerous time to be dragging someone off. We needed more goals. And look, at last of all, I suppose we touch on Salah. The guy is just exudes fucking class. I would. I'd contemplate it. It's, his record is just absolutely phenomenal when you think of it. As I mentioned already, 15 goals in 20 games. Like, Jesus Christ.
When you think of it, John, the fact that when we were originally going to go for him, I think he was at Club Brugge, I think it was, and we didn't want to pay the extra few million to get him. And I think at the time he went to Chelsea for 7.5, I think it was, or something like that.
I can't remember the figure, but I know we were messing him around and Chelsea jumped in and took him.
Absolutely. And, lucky for us, I suppose, he didn't do too well at Chelsea. He went to Roma. He was, the stats, he was the guy with the most assists. He'd score a couple of goals as well. He's a completely different player. Stevie G says he was only a kid, I suppose, when he was at Chelsea. He's matured. He's a great player. I said to a friend of ours, a friend of mine, should I say, he said, "Listen, if Salah scores, we have to buy the jersey with Salah on it." And I thought we were jinxing him because he didn't score against Sevilla. So I thought we were jinxing him. But Jesus Christ, what a great goal! And he was very unlucky not to score 2 tonight, I thought. But he's a fantastic player, great attitude on him. He's always smiling. And obviously fair play to him for showing the respect there for obviously that tragedy in Egypt.
Yeah, I kind of, a lot of people were saying it was because it was against his former team. I think had those incidents not happened in Egypt, I think that goal would have been just as robustly celebrated as any other goal he scored at this point. But it was subdued celebration because of the incidents that happened in Egypt where all those people were killed. Just looking at his record last year for Roma, he scored 19 goals and provided 15 assists in 41 games. Yeah. That's a phenomenal return, and he's already looking like he's going to beat that this season. Like, he had 15 league goals in Serie A last year with 13 assists. He scored 2 in the Europa League and he scored 2 in the Coppa Italia. So that makes up 19 goals in 41 appearances. And I'm just going to try and bring up the statistics for this season. He has 10 goals in 13 games. Isn't that it, what he has for us in the league? 13 league games. Yeah, he scored 4 goals in 5 games in the Champions League, and he also scored a goal in the in Champions League qualification. Now, his assists probably isn't as high as they were for Roma, but as I said, it's early on in the season. He has 4 assists in 20 games, but he has 15 goals. So he's been involved in 19 goals in 20 games for Liverpool, which is just phenomenal.
He's some buckle, isn't he? I mean, he really is. He's a joy to watch, and I mean, again, watching him against Southampton there the other week, he was just an absolute joy to watch. I mean, he's already a fan favourite. He's got a better record than starting off his career than Fowler. I think than Suarez as well. So, I mean, that says an awful lot about the guy. He's a top player, and I just hope that he continues to improve, and I just hope that Klopp sees him as being a player that we need to kind of build the team around.
Yeah.
He really is. I can't speak highly enough of him. I love watching him play.
Yeah, he's definitely quality. He moved from Basel for 8.5 million to Chelsea. Yeah. And then he went to Fiorentina for 12 million from Chelsea. I think he went on loan first, did he?
He went
to Fiorentina.
I think he went on loan to Roma from Fiorentina, right. And then they made him permanent. Right. I think that's how it worked. Yeah. Well,
he's valued at 40 million, but I think his value has probably doubled at this point. I think there'll be a lot of people sniffing around him, but again, his eye for goal and his instincts are just beyond anything that we could ask for at this point. Like, he's phenomenal. He's already surpassed our leading goal scorer from last year in Philip Coutinho.
It says an awful lot, though, doesn't it? I mean, the fact that we're already he surpassed that last year. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, exactly. Now, some of the things I wanted to discuss today, right? We had substitutions. We had Gini Wijnaldum, as we mentioned, came on for Sturridge in the 66th minute. Didn't do a lot. when he came on. I kind of he went into a midfield that had already done a disappearing act, so he kind of blended in. If you'll excuse the pun, but the real gripe that I had today is that the substitutions, and while Jurgen Klopp gave out that it took too long for the subs to be made, and he was giving out about the referee, but the subs were made 20 minutes too late. You know, the few minutes that the referee delayed in bringing the subs on, I think was moot. They should have come on a lot sooner.
I think that's always been the problem with Klopp, though. He's always kind of, brought on subs maybe the 65th, 70th minute, and maybe even later. And that's always been a bit of a head scratcher. In terms of Gini, I'm not 100% sure really what he brings to Liverpool either.
Yeah, he goes missing. He does go missing. But then again, we knew that. Newcastle fans were surprised, firstly, that we wanted to buy him. And secondly, it was one of the things that they said. Apart from the fact that he doesn't score away from home, he goes missing for games. And, he's proven that he does that too at Liverpool. It seems to be a trait of his game. Just the two other substitutions that were made. Sadio Mane came on for Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, and Adam Lallana made his first appearance of the season. He came on in place of Coutinho. They both came on at 88 minutes. Now, Lallana was up and ready to come on from the 80th minute, I think, before Willian equalised. And it was the 88th minute before they got on. But in saying that, they should have been on 20 minutes before.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just feel that, I just felt that after our goal, we kind of sat back a bit. I think we should have made the changes shortly after we had scored the goal, and put on Lallana. I was a little bit worried about who they were going to take off, because some of the substitution decisions that Klopp makes are a little bit puzzling. There's been a couple of incidents where I've been kind of saying, Jurgen, what in the Lord Jesus are you at? But, I kind of agreed with the changes today. But again, as you said,
far too late. Yeah. Now look, I'm not anti-Klopp. And don't get me wrong. Klopp is the best thing to happen to this football club in a number of years. But today, team selections and decisions like today, they raise serious questions. It's not an isolated incident that's happened on a number of occasions before. And, he doesn't do himself any favours by doing stuff like that. People were crying out. If you watch the match, I generally tend to have Twitter open as well. And I know Twitter is probably not the best place to be for football, but there's some very intelligent people. There's a certain amount of people that I'd follow, and I'd kind of listen to their opinions and what have you. And practically every single one of them were saying we needed substitutions from the 70th minute at the latest.
I think that's one thing that we all agree on. With a lot of the games, that we need to put on the subs a lot earlier, and especially when you're in that position when you're 1-up, because when you're 1-up, you're the situation that Liverpool are at is that our strike force have to be as good as they are, because we're almost guaranteed to concede a goal.
Yeah.
So we have to score. This is an ongoing issue, and it's not going to be resolved if we keep on brushing it under the carpet. Our back five is our weak point.
Yeah.
And even that, I'd even go so far as saying that, maybe our midfield isn't all that good either, our central midfielders. But that's something that we have to look at. But, I just feel that when we're 1-0 up or whatever, I think really to kill off the game, we need to bring in the subs a lot earlier, because Lallana didn't have much of a chance. I know there was talks on BT Sport that Mane was kind of very, very annoyed at the fact that he wasn't playing, or that he didn't get on sooner.
He was upset, all right, at the end. You could see he was giving out. It's hard to know what he was giving out about, whether it was something that happened on the pitch or whether it was the referee, because they were giving out the referee didn't let them on early enough or whatever.
Well, I think, you know, from what BT Sport said, it was the fact that he wasn't on.
Yeah.
And for a player like that, who's got such a, you know, an influence on the game and on our game, I think to not have him on against possible title contenders, although maybe not this year, but certainly, you know, they won it last season. I think was very, very. It wasn't right. I think he should have been starting.
I agree with you there, and as I mentioned at the start of the podcast, you know, when you're playing, like, they're not title contenders at this point. I think Man City, I think, are have that cut and dried at this stage. But we're going to be fighting for a top 4 place against teams like Chelsea, and you know, they're games that we, particularly our home games, we have to win our home games against them. It's as simple as that. And my opinion on today is we went out with a strike force that had one hand tied behind its back. It was limited. It was only half a strike force, and that's doing it. Probably a bit more justice than it deserves, because all we had on the pitch today was Salah. To be honest with you, Coutinho didn't show up. You know.
Again, I think he was kind of missing his buddies, Mane and Firmino.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the issue, you know.
Exactly. But the thing about it is, in a game like Chelsea, you don't want to be bringing players on to change. You want the players that can make a difference to be on from the beginning. And then if you're playing well and you have a couple of goals up, well, then by all means take them off. You know, rest them. You don't want to be chasing a game with 5 minutes to go and bringing on the likes of Sadio Mane and Adam Lallana. Now, I can see it with Lallana. He's not fit and he's not going to get a full game. But I get that Mane has been injured, so he's kind of protecting him. But, you know, surely I think we could have done with Mane today and maybe give him a rest for Stoke the next night. Now, look at it again. We don't know what's happened in training. Maybe he saw something that he just decided that, you know, I'm not going to risk him. That's fair enough.
Well, I mean, going back to, I suppose, the team formation or the team lineup, I mean, Stevie G said that, you know, possibly the lineup has shown some respect for Chelsea, and I'm not 100% sure whether I agree with that, although I love Stevie. I'm not 100% sure I agree with that. I mean, I think you know, the kind of layout of the formation would have been the same if we had Mane and Firmino on the pitch. So I don't really see how having Sturridge and having Chamberlain instead of Mane and Firmino on the pitch was going to make any difference.
And in actual fact, I think the way Chelsea set up today showed that they had respect for us and they had a fair. But, you know, it was evident, like, they started to come into the game after about 10 or 15 minutes, and you could see, hold on a second, these aren't the threat that we were expecting them to be, and they started to come at us more because we didn't offer any threat. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I'm saying we need our influential players to be starting games, particularly against the likes of Chelsea, to try and have the result not sewn up, but certainly to be in control of the game to the point where you can say, right, well, look at it, 70 minutes now, let's take Mane off, give him a rest. But the other thing is, Salah has played 20 games for us. They're not even contemplating giving him a rest, but yet they'll rest other players. You know, and Salah has had just as much activity as the likes of Firmino with international games and what have you. So, you know, that's one of the reasons I question sometimes the choices that Jurgen Klopp makes. I'm not saying Klopp out. I'm not critical of him. He's definitely the best manager for Liverpool. He gets Liverpool, and, you know, I'm not saying get Klopp out. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I'm questioning some of his decisions. And something else that I wanted to say was, while I'm quite entitled as a Liverpool fan to question the performances of players and the choices of our manager. These super fans on social media that think it's, if you criticise the club or the players, that you're not a true fan and that you shouldn't speak out, is complete and utter bullshit. Because, you know, if I see something wrong I speak out about it, and I'm quite entitled to do it as a Liverpool fan. And these ones that come back at you, telling you to go and support another team, they're not helping.
Yeah, I mean, I think you know my take on that, John. I mean, I've been over a month off social media for my own sanity, and I think things get said at the heat of the moment, and things are said, and there are times where it's water off a duck's back, and there's times where it's not, and you react in whatever way you do. On a personal front, I think the fans need to have their wits about them and need to look at what is on the pitch, and not think that these players are not immune from criticism, or the manager isn't immune from criticism just because they are Liverpool. I think everyone has a right to be critical. I think there is a line that you have to draw, and I think that goes without saying for everything. I don't think that being critical of a player also means that you should be abusive online to them, and say horrible shit to them, which unfortunately Dejan Lovren has been. And then you've had our own player at international level, Christie.
Yes.
What's his name? Cyprus Christie.
Cyprus Christie, yes. Cyrus Christie.
Cyrus Christie,
yeah.
Sorry. He obviously had scored the own goal that had knocked us out of the World Cup. We didn't qualify for the World Cup, and because he's a black man, he'll get racist remarks said to him, which is absolutely horrible. So I do think we need to kind of draw the line. I don't think that there's any need for that. I think you have to look at the game of football. I mean, as I said to you, I was over at Anfield. I was in the heart of the Kop, sitting beside Liverpool born and bred. They were just as critical of the players as I was.
Yeah.
And also, we're realistic. I mean, we were 3-0 up, and there was a guy beside my father who was saying, stop playing this sideways shit. Let play up. And very critical of their passing, even though we were 3-0 up. So that to me was refreshing, and I think that's the difference between, I suppose, reality and social media. That's my no, it's true. There are kind of extremes of reactions on social media, but the point that I was trying to make as well there is that I'm a Liverpool fan. I'm entitled to have an opinion the same as anybody else, and to get shouted down as if I'm a fucking idiot just because some superfan decides that it's not the done thing to criticise the club or criticise a player or anything like that. The way I look at it, if somebody does something wrong, they're open to criticism and they get paid well enough to be able to accept the criticism. I'm not saying go all out and fucking be abusive, but what I mean is to be critical of their performance, not of the person themselves. No, not at all. And I mean, I don't think either yourself or myself, John, ever saw a player put on a jersey and wanted them to fail.
Exactly.
We all want these players to exceed our expectations and to do well for the club, because if they do well for the club, we do well as a club. So it's kind of obvious there. So I'm not critical of any player just for the sake of it. I'll be critical of a player if a player doesn't play well. And again, I've been kind of a little bit defensive of Dejan Lovren because, and excuse the pun, defensive often. I am because of the fact of, I suppose, his outside situation, which isn't exactly the most healthy of situations for him. But I think it's fair to say the guy's had chance after chance after chance, and I don't think he can cut it.
Yeah. One of the people notable... Sorry, go ahead.
No, and I'm just saying, and I'm sure he's a nice guy and whatever, and I wish him the best and whatever, the same way as I would, Daniel Sturridge, if he decides to leave.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be the type to kind of, well, okay, I have a Sturridge jersey, so I'm going to burn it if he goes and plays for some other club. You know.
Yeah. And there was something I wanted to mention was that Emre Can wasn't even on the bench today, and it came out this morning. There's a rumour doing the rounds. It was reported in Italy. I'm just trying to see who it was again that claimed it. I can't see it, but they're saying that he's agreed terms with Juventus. Emre Can has agreed to sign a pre-contract with Juventus on January 1st, which means that he'd leave at the end of the year on a free transfer. So yeah, that's not good. Reports originating from Italy claim that the German international has agreed terms with Italian giants and will join them on a free in the summer once his contract expires. He's free to sign a contract in January 1st. That's the rule for Europe. Once you're into the last 6 months of your contract, you're allowed to talk to other teams. So, that is worrying. Klopp did say that up until the last minute that he could still sign a contract with us. Once January 1st comes, that could all change though. I think it's a mistake that we're losing them. But anyways, so be it. Get somebody else in that can replace them as quickly as possible. It's a pity. Because I think he offers a lot. He proved the other night he offers a lot. I think he offers more than Wijnaldum and Henderson. So look, again, that's subjective. It's my opinion. Might differ from somebody else's. Anything else to say on the game, Sean, before we play the interviews?
Not really. It's obviously just the same shit, different game. I mean, obviously we conceded a 3-goal lead there on Tuesday. We got 1-0 today, and we conceded a goal which drops the 2 points and our opportunity to get in fourth spot. I think this is really going to be the situation for Liverpool. I think we're always going to have to score more goals and not sit back because of how poor our defence is.
Exactly.
Now, some people might say, well, there wasn't much that our defence could do, for that freak goal today. But in saying that, we could have cleared it out before it even got to Willian. So I don't know what other people's opinion of it is, but that's my opinion. I think, if we're not obviously going to do anything in January, and I'm not putting my FSG out hat on or anything, but I think we have this common theme that we don't do anything in January and just talk about how hard it is to sign a player rather than just get on and fucking signing them.
Yeah.
But I think that would be a big mistake, and I think you'll see that throughout the season. I think we're going to continually struggle in games where we should have got 3 points and we didn't. And I think that's something that we can look back on at the end of this season and say, well, yeah.
Results like today, I think, are going to be ones that define our season. We look back at games from previous seasons where we lost. We mentioned two of them earlier on there, the Leicester game and the Burnley game. And they were two results that would have completely changed our season from last year. We already have some of those results from this season already. The 1-1 draw to Newcastle, stuff like that. But anyways, our next game is against Stoke on Wednesday night. We're away to Stoke. It's not a televised game, I don't think. It's on at 8 o'clock. So I'm not sure. Our next televised game isn't until the 10th of December, which is the home game against Everton, the Merseyside derby. So, but yeah, look, not great today, unfortunately. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to play some of the interviews from the game, and we can kind of maybe talk about them in brief afterwards. So first up is Jurgen Klopp.
More like drama. Can you give us your reflection? How do you feel after that?
Oh, no, I'm not sure yet. I have to wait a little bit. So I'm happy about the performance. I'm more than happy about the attitude. I'm I'm really happy about the atmosphere, and the result is not what we wished. That's how it is, but it was a perfect night for us until William tried to cross the ball, to try to do a cross, and when I saw it, it was so that felt really bad. So that's how it is. But the rest was just good, and or even more. It was difficult tonight. Chelsea came here with a smart match plan and had a very defensive midfield. The rest is pretty much as it is usually. And then the counterattacks with Eden Hazard and Alvaro Morata, that's difficult to defend. We did really well. And so I'm happy about a lot of things, but the result we just have to accept, and of course that's what we do.
It's been a tough week, but on the positive side, the squad looks like it's getting close to full fitness now, possibly the strongest bench we've had all season.
I thought before the game, if we let play these two benches, 6 versus 6 aside, if you want, that would have been a nice game. But they were a little bit better tuned. They had 2 centre halves on the bench. Probably we would have lost, but it would have been a nice game. So, yeah, that's true. It looked really well. But that's what we need. And then if the boys who come in can really show this and cope with this kind of intensity, because that's the biggest problem, then everything is good. So we have to go this intense period now. I'm happy about a lot of things. I've said it to colleagues of you that I saw Ox a lot of time playing, but I never saw him like this. It was really nice to see how much he tries to help the boys, and that was really cool. And all Daniel did really well. Alberto had a difficult week, how we know. Oh, fantastic game. I think nobody can really imagine how difficult it is after a game like the last one, coming back in a game like today, like he came back. So a lot of really good things. How is that? A nice and ugly 1-0 would have been fantastic. So it's not too cool, especially because we wanted to change the system, wanted to bring Adam, wanted to change on five in the back, and I was so sure that the space where William made the cross, Ruggie would have been to avoid the cross. So that felt really average when I saw the ball flying. So I was a little bit angry then. It's not to change anymore, but it was not nice. I don't know what we did wrong that we couldn't make the change. No clue. But yeah, maybe the rest.
Joe, it feels like a tough day on your team there. Did you feel like you deserved the 3 points?
Yeah, I think so. I think we battled well and we was aggressive from the start. I think we dominated generally and we created some good chances, and obviously Mo got another goal for us, and then it looked like we was going to hold on, but it was a decent bit of skill. I don't know whether he meant it or not, but it's unlucky for us and disappointing not to get all 3.
So what was the approach before the game? How did you feel Chelsea would set up against Liverpool today?
We knew they'd have the wing backs wide, and Hazard and Morata would come and pick up the ball and do what they do, and I think we was wary of their threats and we did our best to try and stop them, and I think we had our fair bit of play as well, and we did keep them quiet. Obviously had their chances as well, but so did we. They're top side and obviously they're champions and so on, so we've got to take the positives.
It felt like it was going to be a battle of wits today, as you allude to there, but a little bit of fortune for the goal at the end. I don't think you've had a chance to see it yet, but that was the way it looked, wasn't it?
Yeah, obviously I haven't seen it back, but it looked like that. He just dinked it, and it's lucky any other day it could hit the crossbar or just go on the top of the net, so it's disappointing, but we just got to move on from it and do what we can in the next game.
Went against or about Mo again. I think that's 10 and 13 now. It's a joint record. I mean, we're running out of things to say about this fella, aren't we?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I think he's coming and he's been a massive addition to us and unbelievable in the goals he scored, and also his play, just general play and his link up, and our whole attacking force is quality. Everyone knows that, and hopefully he can keep on doing it for us.
Can you give us an insight into what the camp has been like since Seville and how you've managed to lift yourselves again ahead of this one?
Obviously after the game we was all gutted and nothing really needed to be said. We all knew that it was poor and we shouldn't have let it slip like that, but I think going into this one nothing needed to be said. Everyone was fired up and it was a great game to try and bounce back from, and I think we showed that in the way we tried to start and tried to press and so on, but obviously we didn't get the result we wanted, but we all put in a good shift.
You're all digging again, 3 games in a week, they come thick and fast. Another one midweek now to think about.
Yeah, I think this whole period everyone knows how relentless it is, and we've all got to be ready for the continuous games, and there is no rest, and we've got to be ready for that, but I think we've got a strong squad and a lot of depth to do.
First reaction to that, is it 2 points dropped?
Well, it's very bitter to concede in that way at the very last stages of the game. I think we deserve to win the game, and then it's always difficult to take it when you concede in an unlucky manner like that.
It was so much industry about the display. You were always going to have to be patient today, and it almost worked out, didn't it?
Yeah, I think we did well. We had our chances. We created them, of course, the first half. As you would expect, Chelsea also was good on the counter-attack and had a few, but we were in a good position, and then Mo scored second half, and we tried to defend that lead. Unfortunately, till one kick at the end of the game, that didn't happen.
How did you view that then? It looked as though from replays it was a cross. Did he get a little bit lucky with it, do you think?
Well, yeah, I think he was looking to try and cross to the far post. Ball bounces up perfectly for him, and then it goes in the top corner at the far post, which is very, very difficult to concede like that.
You're obviously very disappointed. At what point did you realise that was possibly going to go in?
Well, you try to make up for it, of course, and you try to get that in the air, but the ball gets up so high and falls down so quickly at the end. That's just one you have to take, and it's not easy so close after the game.
From Mo's point of view, again, he's on the score sheet. He's a joint record holder now with Daniel Sturridge for the impact that he's made. Just how important is he to this Liverpool team? Yeah,
it's very important for us, not only with scoring goals and creating, but also the way he defends and works hard for the team when we're not in possession. So he's very important for us, and let's hope he can continue in the same manner he's playing at this moment.
There have been 2 very dramatic endings, haven't they? On paper, probably 2 draws against these 2 teams would have appeared good results, which perhaps shows how far we've come.
Yeah, exactly. I think we deserved twice to win the game. That didn't happen, but we have to keep going. I've got loads of games to go, and we'll recover and get ready for the next one.
And just finally, the characters in this dressing room, they'll lift you again, won't they, ahead of midweek?
I'm happy, and I'm strong enough to do that myself.
So there you have the after-match interviews, Jurgen Klopp, Joseph Gomez, as I'm going to call him from now on, because that's what he's called on the Liverpool website, and Simon Mignolet. I've seen an article come up there in the Liverpool Echo. There was some question marks surrounding the conversation that Jurgen Klopp had with Sadio Mane at the end of the game, and we touched on it slightly there as well, that he looked pissed off. He said it was nothing to worry about. I'll just read out some of his quotes. He said, "I was shouting at him because he was in the centre, but no player's happy about that when you come onto the pitch with 3 minutes left and you feel like you've got 150 minutes in your legs already. I wanted to sort it out immediately. He was not happy and said to me, Mo wanted to come into the position, but Mo already had 90 minutes in his legs. So it would have made more sense that Sadio was close to the right wing and starts from that position." He said, "It's not a big thing. We could have done it in the dressing room. It would have been the same thing. Everything is sorted out immediately." I can kind of see where he's coming from there. He wanted Mane to go out to the right wing, but he spotted Mane was in the middle. And obviously he needed the pace on the wing, because Salah was probably tired at that point, and he shouted at him to get out onto the right wing. So that's all it was, according to him. He said it's no big deal, you know. So that's it. So I suppose what's left now, I suppose we discuss the Champions League, where we're going in that regard. We've our final game, on the 6th of December, I think it is, against Spartak Moscow. It's a must-win game. There's a lot of people asking questions that is a draw good enough for us, or if we lose, do we still go through? Just some of the permutations from it. We top the group at the moment, but Sevilla have an away game, I think, against Maribor. You would expect them to get something from that. But the way the group is at the moment, while we're top of the group, we can still come third. A loss to Spartak Moscow would put us on the same points as Spartak Moscow, but we have a much superior goal difference. But unfortunately, that doesn't come into it. It's a head-to-head. So if we lose against Spartak Moscow, be it 1-0, 2-1, doesn't matter. Spartak Moscow go through. because we drew with them in the first game, and so it's a head-to-head. So if they beat us, they go through, and Sevilla then obviously if they get a point away to Maribor, they can still go through, I think. Oh no, they won't go through because it'll be dependent on our goal difference then, because we drew both times. But the point is, we should be looking at this as a win. Now the other side of it is, is it beneficial to qualify top of the group? Because if you look at some of the second place teams in the Champions League at the moment, you have the likes of Real Madrid in second place in their group. So, is it really beneficial to be coming up against teams like that as winner of the group?
Well, my take on that, John, is this is the Champions League, and it's not called the Champions League for nothing. This is the top drawer football, and you get found out very quickly in the group stages.
That's for sure.
It's been 9 years since we've qualified for the knockout stages of the Champions League, which kind of says it all for a club of our stature and a club of our history, and being kind of the European royalty in regards to the Premier League is concerned. But I think we should fear no club. But that's my take on it. But however, I think we're going to be found out, and that's what I'm afraid of. I think when you look at how we played against Sevilla, 3-0 up, and it still wasn't enough to end the game. I think that says it all. Sevilla are a grand team, are the Europa specialists. But that's not the first time that we've kind of let them back into a game. And we could have killed them off, and if we were a better club or a better squad, if we had better players, we would have done that. To have Karius as our Champions League goalkeeper, I'd be a little bit worried about that.
Even though he's done nothing wrong, in fairness to him, he wasn't at fault. I don't think the last day for any of the goals. He couldn't be blamed for them. He actually kept us in the game. He pulled off a couple of very good saves, but
he's still dodgy as fuck, John.
Oh yeah, they all have mistakes in them, as proven the other night with Moreno, who was having a great season up until now. But the other worrying factor, and you touch on it there, and I think this in a nutshell will define, is that against the top teams this year, we've struggled. We've had one good result since the start of the year against the top team, and that was against Arsenal. We beat them 4-0. Otherwise, we've been terrible against them. The likes of Man City beat us 5-0. Spurs beating us. The two results against Sevilla proves it too. It is a worry. And I just to touch on some of the teams, right? The leaders in their group at the moment, obviously, Manchester United, Paris Saint-Germain, Chelsea, Barcelona, ourselves, Man City, Besiktas, and Spurs. Now, they're the top teams in the group. There's one or two teams that you wouldn't mind getting there, but the majority of them you don't want to get. But the second place teams, if when you win the group, these are who you come up against. FC Basel, United had a tough time against them the other night.
Yeah.
Bayern Munich second in their group. You don't want to meet Bayern Munich, to be quite honest with you. AS Roma, another team tough enough to beat. Yeah. Juventus second in Group D. Obviously, we rule ourselves out. Shakhtar Donetsk, FC Porto, and Real Madrid. Now, there's a lot of tough games there. There's a lot of tough games in first and second, but I think second place, it's not the worst place to finish in the group, finish in second place. I don't think it's any more difficult than finishing first.
I think the way we are, John, we're very temperamental, and I think that there are times where we up our game and we play very well, and then there are other times where we fall apart. I still feel that the Champions League is not going to. It's going to reveal. It's going to open up a can of worms, and it's going to reveal and show what Liverpool's true problems are. of course, as a Liverpool fan, I want to see us do extremely well in the Champions League. I want to see us in the Champions League final. Is that going to happen this season? I doubt it a great deal. I doubt it. And we should be looking towards that. But I just think, with who's second in the group and with who's first in the group, there's no easy game there. There's absolutely no easy game. FC Basel have been a difficult team for us, as well as United. Spartak Moscow, we drew with them away. Possibly could have won that game, from what I can remember of it. Is it going to be any different at Anfield? I don't know. If we meet Real Madrid, I think they'll school us. I think they'll absolutely school us. I really do. I don't know, John. I really don't know. It's just
I think the focus this season should be getting to the knockout stages, anyways. And I think if we do get to the knockout stages, it's an achievement for first season back in. But the issues that I have is we need to be getting back to the Champions League again next year, and we shouldn't be looking at winning the Champions League as a means to getting back into the Champions League. We should, and we're struggling at the moment in fifth place in the league. And should Arsenal win tomorrow, they go ahead of us. We drop to 6th tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, it's all about progression, and it's all about have we solved the problems that we had coming into the season, and I think it's safe to say we haven't. I think we have more to do in the January window, which we're not going to do anything. So we'll be looking at next summer, and I think we have a lot to do next summer. It's going to be the same problems, I think, and I think our defence our back five is really letting us down, and I think there's no leadership there. You have to question Henderson. And a few players that really shouldn't be playing for Liverpool,
Yeah, I agree with you there. Just something non-Liverpool related, I just saw it pop up. I saw it pop up earlier on, but it's after popping up again there on Twitter. Messi is after signing a new 4-year deal at Barcelona to keep him there until 2021. The club have raised his buyout clause to £626 million or 700 million euros. He's going to be on 500,000 a week wages. I don't know how he's going to survive on that.
Jesus, I don't know. He should join the union or something.
I think so, yeah.
A pay increase or something. God love him.
His buyout clause has doubled from €300 million up to €700 million, which it just proves the way the market has gone. But yeah, so he's no longer able to sign a pre-contract in January, so he can't come to Liverpool. So that's one player off the books for now. And anyways, I think that's going to do it, Sean. That's quite a good podcast, quite a good match review podcast. It's good. So. It's good to have you back again and discussing football. And I'm sure you'll come on again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As I said, I've kind of taken a break from social media just to rest the old heads and focus on a couple of other things. And I said, it's great to be back on Talk LFC, and definitely I won't be a stranger. I'll certainly be on it again if you're willing to have me.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Just a couple of things just before we wrap up I wanted to mention. If anybody would like to contribute anything to our website, if you want to write an article, anything Liverpool related, we'll be happy to publish it. Our website is talklfcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook at Talk LFC Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Talk LFC Podcast. And you can email the show at talklfcpodcast@gmail.com. I forgot to mention our sponsors. I'll have to give myself a kick afterwards. The sponsor for the podcast is Sligo Web Solutions. And also, if you can see your way fit to treating the red in your life, please consider our custom artwork, which is on our Redbubble on our Redbubble online store. The link is in the description below. At the moment, they're running a special offer for 20% off all apparel. So t-shirts, all that type of stuff is 20% off if you use the code GIFTON20. So that's GIFTON20. And you'll get 20% off our custom designs. All the money that we raise from that goes to paying the expenses for our podcast and for the website hosting and what have you. So that's pretty much it. So Sean, thank you for coming on and giving me a dig out. It's getting very lonely here for a while.
It's all right, John. I'm glad I could kind of help you through your lonesome times, as long as it's just on podcast only.
Yes, exactly. Nothing else meant by that remark.
No,
so that's,
of course not.
So that's pretty much it. As I mentioned, give us a follow on social media. If you want to contribute in any way to Talk LFC podcast, we'd be happy to publish articles from fellow Reds. Put in your reviews of the game, or anything you want to get off your chest. We'll happily publish articles. So that's pretty much it. So Sean, again, thanks for joining me this evening, and I'm sure we'll talk again.
Indeed.
So thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you for listening to Talk LFC Podcast. Be sure to follow us at facebook.com/Talk LFC Podcast and on Twitter at twitter.com/Talk LFC Podcast. Get in touch with us by email at talklfcpodcast@gmail.com or via our website at www.talklfcpodcast.com.